So I think I've got time to squeeze this in before the electrician arrives. It's first thing in the morning. I've got my coffee here, and I want to talk about unifying myths. So it's continuing where I was talking about last time, Neptune, Pluto, and the story and myth and fact and all that sort of area. Because the central problem of our age, as I see it, is that there's no unifying myth. Nothing that holds our universe together. It's not like we all have to have the same one. Um, I mean, it's amazing. You used to get in Iraq, you'd get Jews and Christians and Muslims living alongside each other. I mean, I think that's wonderful. Each with their own kind of unifying myth. I don't know how they managed it. I mean, Islam does have a tolerant streak in it. It comes and it goes. There's times when it can produce these great tolerant cultures and other times when it reverts to fundamentalism. And that's the thing about monotheism, is when you just have one God, then you only have one reality, and it easily lends itself to fundamentalism. So I don't really go for that. I mean, we do need an underlying unity, but we need multiplicity within that as well. It's natural for humans to have multiplicity, which is why the Catholic Church has its saints. It's like that just sort of came out. You have all these other beings that you pray to for this, that, and the other. And it's a bit like living in the jungle. You'd have had lots of realities, whereas monotheism arose in the desert, where you just got this one harsh reality, and you need a harsh God because your survival's at stake. If you don't obey the rules, you will die. So, and that was transplanted all over the world to Europe, which wasn't a desert. It's so we produced our saints and whatever, and Protestantism got rid of all of them. That's another story. It's the unifying myth. Um, so Christianity used to provide it, and then it died. Matthew Arnold, writing in the 19th century, talked about the long withdrawing roar of the sea of faith, which used to girdle the earth. He was standing on Dover Beach. The melancholy noise of the sea withdrawing over the pebbles. It brought that to mind. It's how poetry works. Yeah, you see one thing, another reality presents itself forcefully to you, feelingfully to you. So we haven't got that anymore. And Yeats talked about it in The Second Coming, his poem of 1919. He said, he's talking about a falcon. He said the falcon can no longer hear the falconer. Yeah, that's like us. We can no longer hear that grounding principle of the falconer. Things fall apart. The centre cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. That's what he said would happen. And then he continued, it'll produce a place where the best lack all conviction and the worst are full of passionate intensity. So that's the situation we're in now. We have no unifying myth. We have the scientific story. That's something we all tend to believe in. But it's not a myth. It doesn't take us beyond ourselves. It's mere fact. It's mere dead fact. That's the problem. And that, in the human heart, creates despair, creates hopelessness. We do have a spiritual religious aspect to us. That doesn't prove it's objective, whatever that means, a quality of the universe, but it's something in us. It needs to be satisfied. That's why books like Harry Potter are so popular. Yeah, they bring that magic back in. So, and that breakdown, we see that breakdown happening, first of all, through relativism. The idea that there's no absolute truths. Well, that is kind of true. They do have a good point. It is good to be able to look at things from various points of view. But our underlying myth is for us an absolute truth. And it's not a literal truth. There is absolute truth, but it's not literal. We only think in terms of literal truth these days. But what about truths that are imaginative, that carry us outside of ourselves, that aren't susceptible to scientific proof? That's the kind of truth that needs to be absolute, that we need to hold on to. Yeah, not absolute in the sense that not one we're hanging on to for psychological security, because that's when we get intolerant of other faiths. It's one that provides our existential base, our existential roots. It's faith. I talk about a unifying myth, but really I mean faith. And astrology and shamanism both provide that for me spontaneously. They're just kind of in me. It's like they've always been in me. I don't know where they came from, but they're a wonderful thing to have. So astrology is based on this story that who we are was written in the sky at the moment of your birth. And it can be read, it can be gleaned, it can be peered into. There isn't a set interpretation, it's a visionary interpretation. It's not a scientific one. Don't go down that route of thinking science is scientific. I mean, astrology is scientific to try and make it respectable. We're not respectable. If you think it's respectable, you've kind of missed the point of the type of truth it is, because it's a type of truth that we've forgotten. And that's very primal. It's far older than the Christian story. That's the thing. The Christian story, well, a couple of thousand years old. Astrology started thousands of years before that. We've always felt a connection. It comes out of our sense of connection with the sky and indeed with the earth. So shamanism has that kind of story as well. My other big interest. They're in a way they're kind of the same thing. So shamanism is based on the idea that the experience that the earth is alive, inspirited, and we are part of it. It's a beautiful idea. Well, it's not an idea, it's an experience. Why wouldn't the earth be alive? It's not an intellectual position, it's an experience. And you can't argue against experiences like that. You can argue against it. And you can maybe wrong foot people who maybe can't dance with the words like you can. But it's a truth that's deep in you, it's in your bones. Yeah. I mean, I've been around astrologers, I've been around people who do shamanism and probably, well, let's say paganism. Yeah. And it's something we just feel in our bones. It goes deep within us. So always come back to that. That is the source of you. That is your strength. That is your foundation. That is where you won't fall apart. That's where your center holds, unlike what Yeats said. So we see this dissolution going on. The center cannot hold, things fall apart. The relativism, which, as I said, it's got a point, yeah, but it's increasingly taking apart more categories. So I think taking apart the category of male and female is almost as far as you can go. I mean, of course, some people are more fluid and less fixed in how they feel themselves to be, but there is a basic physical realities that we have, and they provide standpoints. So that's a good example of the things fall apart. And he carries on, the best lack all conviction, and the worst are full of passionate intensity. And I see that the worst are full of passionate intensity in this insistence in anyone who doesn't think like you is a transphobe, is a racist, is a this, is a that, is the other. And it's like, no, 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 no. Be gentle. Hold to this thing and you don't identify with these ideas of right and wrong and that you have to be this quasi compassionate person. It's not like that. Let's be gentle. Let's be loving. Let's be tolerant. So I don't know what the answer for the culture is. Maybe there needs to be a lot of unifying, overlapping myths, but it's that basic element of faith. That's what it comes down to. That there is something that takes us outside of ourselves. And that's what astrology and that's what shamanism fundamentally provide for me. It's just kind of in there. So keep coming back to that yourself. That's your foundation. That's what will keep you sane. That will also is what keeps you connected to the universe. Okay.